Limbus company has received its second Intervallo of the 7th season, and with it, we got another look at some familiar faces in Aengdu and bamboo-hatted Kim. And to reflect this reunion, alongside the new content, we got a brand new banner featuring an identity and an ego. The drops in question are LCD OSIR Team Ishmael and shadow-wested Bladesinger Meursault, a brand new Blade Lineage identity and an ego designed specifically to buff up the old but gold Mentor Meursault. The unit and the ego both interact with Bleed and Poise, two keywords that already got a lot of content this season. And as such, a question arises: can Blade Lineage be meta again? And should you get them? In today's video, I aim to answer those questions by first going over the kits of the new identity and ego before talking about their performance in combat through the lenses of Bleed and Poise. But before we start, allow me to remind you that most of my viewers are not subscribed. So if you find yourself coming back to my videos or end up enjoying this one, consider subscribing. It takes just 1 second and helps me out a lot. Now let's get to Blade Lineage. We'll start with the new ego, shadow-wested Bladesinger Meursault. This is a high level 2 coin/pride ego skill that costs 4 pride, 1 wrath and 1 envy, as well as 20 SP. It clashes at up to 28. When the skill is used for the first time in an encounter, it consumes only 5 SP, and if Mentor Meursault is the user, it also only consumes 3 pride on the first use. The ego gains clash power and damage based on poise on the user. If Meursault has gained Drink to the Fallen in this fight, the ego deals 100% more damage against the main target. If Mentor is the user, the effect jumps up to 200%. Before attack, the skill gains weight based on resonance, and also gives 4 poise count to a number of allies also based on resonance, in deployment order. Additionally, 4 other Blade Lineage identities with the lowest SP heal 10 SP, and Meursault gains 4 Drink to the Fallen next turn. The coins of the ego simply inflict 4 bleed and 2 bleed count. The corrosion is more of the same, but turned negative, with 4 coins and a base weight of 3. This version of the skill has the same effects, but gives 4 poise count, 1/damage up and 1/fragility to all allies and enemies, while also building up the power of the last coin by critting with the first 3. Shadow-wested Bladesinger's passive, however, is the most important part of the entire skill. The first part is always active, even before the skill is used. But it only works for Mentor Meursault. Once per skill, Meursault gets to inflict 2 bleed on hit, and he is considered a poise bleed identity for mirror dungeon purposes, whereas he's just a mono poise identity normally. After the skill is used, the rest of the passive kicks in, and starts granting Drink to the Fallen when an ally is killed, giving 2 if the ally is from Blade Lineage. At turn start, if Meursault has that effect, he gains Resentment, gaining Resentful Scabbard as well if the user is specifically Mentor Meursault. At turn start, if Meursault has 0 Drink to the Fallen, he loses access to Resentment, Growing Resentment and Resentful Scabbard. Also, when Meursault has Drink to the Fallen, he can cheat death again on top of Mentor's innate cheat death effect, with this one also healing the user based on the effect stack. And when staggered by damage, Meursault is supposed to get unstaggered. The ego introduces a bunch of effects, so let's go through all of them real quick, as they hold the key to the power of shadow-wested Bladesinger. Drink to the Fallen stacks to 4, and gives 1 poise per stack at turn start, giving 2 per stack if Meursault is set to Mentor. It also makes base skills do more damage on crit, and poise skills gain 1 clash power. The stack is reduced by 1 at turn end. Resentment grants 2 speed and allows Meursault to heal 10% of the damage that he deals. Resentful Scabbard grants growing resentment equal to HP damage taken by any ally. It also activates Mentor's In Memoriam passive at max power, and applies Sword of the Homeland, the True Essence, on all other allies when Pride Resonance is activated. Additionally, when Mentor uses Yield My Flesh, his HP cannot go below 10, and he loses Clash power based on poise, while gaining 4 poise when he uses To Claim Their Bones. Growing Resentment stacks to 999, and To Claim Their Bones gains final power by 1/100th of the stack, up to a max of 6. Also, the final coins of Yield My Flesh and To Claim Their Bones deal extra damage based on the stack, and then the stack expires. Sword of the Homeland, the True Essence, is granted to allies, and this effect gives base power based on the amount of currently fielded Blade Lineage identities. If the unit with the effect is a Blade Lineage Celso, they also deal bonus damage with base skills and gain 1 final power. At turn end, the effect grants 1 haste and then expires. This is it for the kit of the Ego. Now let's talk about how to use it and how powerful it is. First of all, one thing you need to understand is that Shadow-Wested Bladesinger Meursault is not like the other Egos. Whereas usually these skills are meant to provide value in a vast sea of team compositions with different identities, the new Ego serves to buff one specific Season 3 identity, Blade Lineage Mentor Meursault. Effectively, Bladesinger is an uptie 5 hidden behind an Ego button. The skill is similar to some of the Arknights collab Egos, in how its first use is cheaper and you're incentivized to reuse it during the fight. Initially, you want to set up the skill ASAP, as getting access to Drink to the Fallen and all of its connected effects provides Mentor Meursault with an insane amount of poise, damage and support utility. After that, you need to reuse the Ego at least once every 4 turns to refresh the stack, and every use beyond the first also deals a good amount of damage, so the Ego can be used over skill 1 to take down enemies faster. And, as this is effectively an uptie 5, it's unwise to keep looking at the Ego. Instead, let's take a look at Mentor Meursault with all of his buffs. First of all, In Memoriam is maxed out. This passive usually requires you to sacrifice allies, with a whopping total of 5 Blade Lineage identities having to die for the passive to reach its full power. After one use of the Ego, Meursault gets it for free. When maxed, In Memoriam gives Mentor extra power on skills 1 and 2 and extra damage throughout his kit, while also effectively giving him infinite poise, which fixes an issue that Mentor normally runs into without his passive. This alone is a huge buff, but it's not where the Ego stops. It also gives Meursault a damage and speed steroid, while allowing him to stack Growing Resentment by getting hit and having his allies get hit. That effect then buffs To Claim Their Bones and makes it an extremely formidable /Pride skill with over 400 damage. That same skill can also be consistently used now, as Yield My Flesh loses Clash power based on poise, allowing you to proc TCTB without accidentally winning the Clash and missing your nuke. On top of all this, Bladesinger itself deals about 150 damage against its main target, plus AoE, on every use after the first, for a decently small price, meaning you get to replace Meursault's skill 1 if you really want to amp his effective damage, which turns him into a /Pride damage frontrunner even by Season 7 standards. You'd think this is where it ends, but no, they really want Mentor to be relevant, so the Ego also grants access to the True Essence, a team-wide buff that specifically grants Blade Lineage Celsos a bunch of damage, while also giving power based on the number of fielded BL identities. This, of course, poses a question: are the old Blade Lineage units worth using with this buff? And the answer is no. I'll just nip this in the butt. Yeah, I know some of you love this faction and this is enough for you. And to those who think like that, more power to you guys, do whatever. but compared to a lot of newer identities, the old Blade Lineage simply does not measure up. Among them, Yi-Sang fares the best, and he's also the best example of the issue with these units. Would you rather have the buffed Blade Lineage Yi-Sang with all of his bonus power and damage, or Rien Yi-Sang? You know, one of the best identities in the game straight up? Yeah, the answer is kinda obvious. The same goes for the others as well, and, like I said, they themselves present even less of a case to be used than Yi-Sang. Of course, Mentor Meursault doesn't really need these allies to be good. In fact, the ego does a good job separating him from his weak clan and making him a formidable solo force. While Meursault does not reach the level of the Nurse Fathers, even with the help of Bladesinger, he does outshine a lot of apprentices, if not literally all of them, so he is most definitely relevant on a Season 7 scale, just not top tier. You can slot him alongside Blade Lineage and he will not interfere with anything she does. It's true that Capo will often be preferred here over Mentor, but if you're facing a Pride weak enemy, the good old Season 3 powerhouse can be quite good, and you should keep him in mind as a potential Ryoshu ally going forward. He's also supposed to be a bleed identity with the ego equipped. But come on, let's not pretend this is anything more than a mirror dungeon buff. Mentor's not going on the bleed team anytime soon. Now let's look at the new identity, LCD Ishmael. She has pretty high health, average speed and a +3 defense level. Her Sin Affinity spread consists of Wrath, Gloom and Pride, with a Pride defense. All of Ishmael's skills get power from Haste, Poise and Bleed. Her skill 1 is Rending Arts, which clashes at up to 16, gives 2 Poise count, 2 Poise potency and inflicts 1 bleed. The last coin is reused if Ishmael has Dogkabi arms and 3 haste, and at attack end she gets 1 stack of Mook Workshop if Ishmael has haste. Her skill 2 is Acupuncture. This one clashes at 22, gives 3 Poise count, gives a Mook Workshop at attack end based on haste, gives 4 Poise, inflicts 2 bleed and 1 bleed count, and the last coin can be reused with the Kabi arms and 3 haste, while also giving 2 haste on crit, but only once. Ishmael also has a skill 2-2, to claim their bones. It rolls up to 13, is unclashable, deals more damage based on missing HP, haste, Mook Workshop and Poise, gives 3 Poise, and inflicts 2 bleed, 1 paralyze and 1 slash fragility. Her skill 3 is Lucent Rippling Flame. It rolls up to 25, gives Mook Workshop on attack end based on haste, gives 3 Poise count and 5 potency, gives 2 haste next turn, gives Mook Workshop on crit, and inflicts 1 bleed and 1 splash fragility, while dealing bonus damage with the last coin based on Mook Workshop stacks. Ishmael's skill 3-2 is Even the Balance. It rolls up to 17, is unclashable, does bonus damage based on haste and poise, gives 3 poise count and potency, inflicts 3 bleed, gives Mook Workshop on crit, deals bonus damage with the last coin based on Mook Workshop stacks beyond 15, and reuses said coin at 5 haste. Ishmael's defense is a clashable guard, which rolls up to 13, gives assist defense at combat start, and gives 2 haste and poise count on use, with 3 poise on clash win as well. At skill end, it gives Ishmael 2 Mook Workshop if she has haste. As for her assist defense skill, it's also a clash guard, which gives 3 poise on use and heals 5 SP for the ally that it's defending. Moving on to Ishmael's passives, she has 3. Demon Fire Spine Cleaver makes Ishmael use her skill 3-2 when she reaches 15 Mook Workshop stacks. Also, at 3 haste, if she loses a clash with a defensive skill, Ishmael cannot be staggered, and she hits back with her skill 2-2, twice per turn. To Where I Must Return gives Ishmael Bearing of a Celso for every other Blade Lineage ally at encounter start, up to 3. Also, the second half of this passive is just Mentor Meursault's In Memoriam bar for bar. The last passive requires 3 Pride Resonance, and it gives Ishmael the KB arms at combat start, while also healing SP for other Blade Lineage identities based on Resonance. Also, it gives Ishmael assist defense at combat start if there's an ally with 50% HP or less on the field. And at skill end, Ishmael gets 1 Mook Workshop stack for every 3 poison self, up to 5 at a time, twice per turn. As for Ishmael's support passive, it also needs 3 Pride Resonance, and it makes the fastest ally deal 10% more slash damage, increasing to 15% if the ally has haste. Before we check out her performance, let's also look at Ishmael's unique effects. Bearing of Assalso stacks up to 3, gives offense level per stack, and allows Ishmael to gain some extra poise on hit with base attack skills. The KB arms give Ishmael 15% damage resistance, and give 1 haste next turn on skill use. At combat end, the effect expires, and Ishmael gets 2 poise count. Mook Workshop Ye Type 2 Blade Draw Thrust Force the KB Fire stacks up to 20, and Ishmael can get up to 10 stacks per turn. The effect makes slash base skills do more damage based on the stack, and defense skills lose power. Additionally, it grants Ishmael haste for every 5 stacks of the effect. With this, we're done with her kit, and we can look at the new Ishmael in combat. This unit is effectively a combination of Hanafuda Ishmael, Mentor Meursault, and a bit of Mao Faust. And while that does hype her up to be insane, I just mean in a mechanics sense. Ishmael's main mechanic revolves around stacking Mook Workshop, which she does mainly by proccing her passive, which rewards you for using skills, ideally more than 1 per turn. Every time Ishmael hits 15 Mook Workshop, she will rip her skill 3-2 as a bonus attack, in a similar way to how Hanafuda uses Kozan. I did say, however, that she wants to use more than 1 skill. So, how do you do that? Well, the Mentor gimmick helps here, as when Ishmael has 3 haste, meaning basically on every turn after the first, she will use to claim their bones after losing a clash with a defensive skill. Said defensive skill and TCTB both count for her final passive, meaning Ishmael gets to stack Mook Workshop very quickly, while also printing a lot of pride. As for her Mao Faust part, that's the assist defense. When Ishmael uses her guard, or when another ally has less than 50% HP, she will get assist defense, which you can set up in the same way as you would with Mao Faust. The assist defense skill can also lose a clash and turn into TCTB, resulting in even more resource printing and damage. Note, however, that Ishmael's last passive only procs twice per turn, and Mook Workshop cannot be increased by more than 10 in 1 turn, meaning that while she can use 4 skills, with 2 defenses and 2 bone claimings at the same time, it doesn't mean she gets to ult every turn and be completely broken. It does, however, make it a very good idea to replace her skill 1 with a defense if you don't need more wrath and if the enemy isn't staggered. Overall, the new Ishmael combines some strong mechanics and acts like a Pride Wrath focused version of Hanafuda Ishmael. That being said, LCD lacks the ego synergy and effect interaction that make Hanafuda so great, so she's not an instant top tier. However, LCD does have some utility of her own. Namely, to claim their bones inflicts slash fragility, and thanks to Ishmael's whole haste gimmick, she will very often go first, allowing that slash fragility to buff up her own nuke as well as every following skill. Among which you may have things like Echo Shear, Furioso, Meursault to claim their bones, and more. Speaking of Meursault, Ishmael benefits greatly from being fielded alongside him. Her kit isn't that strong damage-wise on its own, so the extra damage from Meursault's Blade Lineage focused buffs really helps bring her strength to the next level. And this brings me to team building with Ishmael. Her bleed infliction is comical, and her competition in bleed is Kurokumo, so that team's off limits. Instead, we'll look at a slash-focused physical damage composition. See, normally, you'd just throw together 7 strong slash-pride damage dealers and you'd call it a day. And Ishmael would be one of the best units in such a composition, dishing out great damage and supporting her low HP allies. But we live in a post-House of Spiders Ryoshu world, and that makes us look at slash damage teams differently. Right now we have access to 7 potential sacrifices for Ryoshu, meaning we can kill 6 to give her 3 slots and leave 1 alive. Ishmael, as a sinner, has one of the 7 House of Spiders identities, meaning that choosing to leave her on the field in the form of LCD Ishmael entails killing every other sacrifice, which would include Rian-Yi-Sang, another wrath-focused long-term damage powerhouse. So, this poses a question: is Ishmael better than Rian? And up until turn 5, yeah, she is. LCD Ishmael gets to ult earlier than Yi-Sang, outputting more damage for the first 4 turns of a fight. But then Furioso happens, and if the enemy is staggered, all of Ishmael's dreams collapse. Fights where a slash damage team is dominant, such as Refraction Railway 6 Section 4, require Rian for their fastest clears, and I don't think Ishmael can contest that. Again, you can forgo sacrificing and use a basic 7-slot team, but that will just be worse than running Ryoshu in all types of content except for the squishiest of bosses. Funnily enough, the new Intervallo has brought a boss that tends to die in just 4 turns, so Ishmael can replace Rian-Yi-Sang there, but in a lot of more important content, her performance isn't stellar, and it's entirely because of stronger identities released this season. Is LCD Ishmael good? Most definitely. This identity is a very powerful unit even by the post-Nurse Father standard, dishing out good damage and helping other allies deal damage as well. However, current team building is a little bit hostile to Ishmael, as she needs to contest some of the strongest identities in the game for a slot alongside Hose Ryoshu, and if you try using her elsewhere, she does not show nearly as promising of a result, as Ishmael is incredibly reliant on 3 Pride Resonance every turn. Because she can't get the Cabby Arms or most of her Mook Workshop stacks without it, and those effects upkeep her poise and make her deal that peak damage. Without them, Ishmael is pretty mid, so her demands are a bit high. I'm sure she will be a frontrunner in the next Refract trial, but it's unlikely she gets a lot of usage in the Refraction Railway, at least not until we get the Thumb identities, which would free up some space for more units to be fieldable. Should you get the Ego and the Identity? In my opinion, yes. While they don't break any records, the Ego-buffed Mentor and LCD Ishmael are both very strong units that will undeniably be key players in the next Refract trial, as well as any fight against Pride weak enemies. I'd put them at a lower priority than any of the Nurse Fathers though, as I need you guys to remember that while the Ego is good with Mentor Meursault, it's a borderline non-existent skill without him, so they're an 800 shard package deal. And honestly, the same can be said about Ishmael. With this, my overview of Shadow-vested Bladesinger Meursault and LCD OSIR Team Ishmael comes to an end. The 2 drops are very strong, but we're living in a world where very strong often doesn't cut it, so despite their perceived power, the 2 additions face some competition still. If you disagree or have something to add, feel free to leave a comment below and I might read it and respond. If you liked the video at any point, leave a like to let me know, and if you want to see more like this, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye!